You really shouldn't say that. Oh. Ow.
Alright. Couple of things we want to talk about. Word of the day is
Ow.
pedigree. You might even have heard the word before. In fact, yeah, like dog pedigree. That's exactly what it is. In fact, but you know what it is? Has anybody raised dogs or anything?
It's like their title, like recorded. No one in this class has ever had a dog in their life.
Well, no, like a dog that has a pedigree along with it. Usually, this is reserved for those animals that are thoroughbreds, horses, dogs that are thoroughbreds. That's exactly what it is. It's a family history, just like Grant said. It's a family history. So if you're going to buy, think about it, if you're going to spend all that money, hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars on some animal, you know, a dog or a horse or whatever, you're going to want the family history. You want to know that that animal came from just the best of the best. If it's all thoroughbred, they're all the, you know, the same breed kind of deal. So it usually comes with paperwork. This is no different, although in this chapter it's applying just to humans. And it applies when you're talking about traits or disorders sometimes. And it looks like this. You have a bunch of circles, you have some squares, they're all connected by lines. So I'm going to want you guys to know what those circles and squares and lines all mean. And here's kind of a picture of it, and here's what I want you to know. Circles, female. Squares, male. Okay? When they are connected by a horizontal line like this, that means they're married and going to produce some children. Okay? When a vertical line goes down from them and it connects to another line, that's going to show you their children. So, well, look at this female and male. How many kids do they have? And be careful. They've got to be connected. 3. How many of their kids are girls? 2. How many kids are boys? 1. Okay, so you have male or female? Male. They have bam, bam, bam. 3 kids. 2 of them are female. 1 of them is male.
The 3 kids named are Bam, Bam, Bam.
What's this person then?
A girl.
That's going to be a spouse. That's right. That's going to be the spouse of one of the kids. Okay, understand that, but for the sake of, you know.
And this broke.
I realize that. Roman numerals are used to represent generations. Usually you will see Roman numerals off to the side. So you will see Roman numeral 1, which represents the first generation, Roman numeral 2, second generation, Roman numeral 3, third generation. Okay. Easy stuff so far, right guys?
Sure.
It really is. A couple more things. Well, let me kind of write this down. I want you guys to have this down. I'm going to write it down in words. A pedigree is a diagram. Don't confuse these with Punnett squares. It's different. A diagram showing how, and the key word is how a trait is inherited. Remember, Punnett squares were different. Punnett squares, you took a male and a female and you determined what percentage is it likely that they will produce an offspring that has that trait. This is kind of like more big picture. Pedigrees are more, okay, we got to look at many generations of information. Who's had the trait and who hasn't had the trait. So pedigrees are definitely more big picture. Circles, female, easy to remember, curvier, okay? Connect them together. Males are square. Okay. There's a line going down, and anybody who's connected to the line that's connected to the line, I won't respond to you. Are going to be their kids. So they have 3 kids. Okay, shaded, unshaded. Pedigrees have to be specific. You got to know what trait you're talking about. They'll tell you. This is the pedigree for baldness. This is the pedigree for hemophilia. This is the pedigree for brown eyes. You know, who knows what it's there for. Anytime, what is universal is if you have something that's shaded in, so if it's shaded, that means you have the trait, whatever it may be. Keep in mind, it doesn't have to be something bad like hemophilia or cancer. It could be something simple like, you know, the ability to roll your tongue or widow's peak. But the shaded means you have the trait. If it's unshaded or left alone, do not have trait. Okay, pretty easy so far. I'm not trying to trick you. It's easy stuff. Okay. Pedigrees are actually used for a variety of reasons. They're used to determine 4 things. Used to determine if trait is dominant, recessive, sex-linked, or autosomal. Okay, we've actually heard of all these words before, but now we've got to apply those words to a pedigree. In other words, when you look at a pedigree, you can actually figure out if the trait that you're talking about is it a dominant trait or a recessive trait? Or is it a sex-linked trait or an autosomal trait? Here's the difference. I'll kind of keep this real short and sweet. I'm actually...
What are you going to do?
If it is a dominant trait, one or more alleles is dominant. It's better if I explain this with an example. Let's say I have 3 genotypes. I'll use A's. I have A, big A, big A, big A, little a, and little a, little a. A trait that is dominant, and there are certain traits that are dominant out there, are going to be expressed if you have 1 or more dominant alleles. So I'm going to underline the genotypes of the people who are going to have that trait if it's a dominant trait. Let me give you an example. Dwarfism. You know, little people? Dwarfism is a dominant trait. That means those people who are dwarfs have at least 1 capital dominant allele. Isn't that kind of strange? Well, knowing that, guys, every one of you in this room is what genotype for dwarfism?
Recessive.
Little a, or recessive for both. Okay. All right, no. No.
Yeah, you are, Shane.
Oh my god. What's it like yours?
Is there a difference between a midget and a dwarf?
It goes. Moving on. If a trait is recessive, now we've been talking more about recessive traits in this class since the beginning. You have to have both recessive alleles if you're going to express this trait. So let's use those same examples above. I'll write them again. Big A, little a, and little a, little a. The only way you're going to get the trait, if it's considered a recessive trait, is if you have 2 lowercase letters. Like I said, this is what we've been kind of dealing with so far. All right, sex-linked. We've talked about this already. Remember we said that a trait is sex-linked. It's literally the gene for that trait's located on your X or Y chromosome. Okay, well, now we got to apply it to pedigrees. If you have a situation where more squares are shaded than circles, chances are you're talking about a sex-linked trait. I'm going to try to see if I can find an example somewhere. Autosomal. Both circles and squares equally affected by the trait. In other words, both circles and squares are equally shaded. And you have the same number of circles that are shaded that you do squares that are shaded. Well, that's
it.
I was hoping to give you guys kind of some examples.
Oh,
No,
fine.
let me do this. Let me hand out this one worksheet, and then I'll let you guys get started. Okay, hold on.
Want me to stop this thing?
No, keep it rolling for a second. I'm handing you guys out basically kind of like a worksheet with a bunch of pedigrees on it. I want you just to kind of look at them and be comfortable with them. And Zaina Shane, I should say.
She can harass again.
All right, we'll take a look real quickly at these. Let's just look at the bottom ones, the bottom two.
Oh, well. I'll talk about you.
All right, here's where I'm at. What are you going to ask me? Don't ask me anything. This is the worksheet I'm looking at right here. Don't ask me anything that you can't ask on a video.
No, I can ask on the video. I got
Trying to
you on
mumble
video.
under my breath. No. This is. I want you to look just the bottom left. You'll see the picture of the two ladies
I don't know
there.
my left from right.
Okay, the ladies are there. You have a pedigree above them. Now this pedigree is kind of special because it has the genotypes listed right below their symbols. Kind of makes life easy for you. But you look at the ones that are shaded in. By the way, we're talking Widow's Peak here in this one. Widow's Peak, remember from the lab, is the kind of the V that comes down. So this is a pedigree showing how Widow's Peak is passed down from generation to generation. At the very, very top, you have two couples, or you have two couples. You have a male who has a widow's peak, a female who does not, and then the other couple, vice versa. You have a male who does not and a female who does. They have the genotypes below them. Look at the ones that are shaded in are the ones that have a capital letter in them. It's funny. The ones that are not shaded in are homozygous recessive, have two little letters. That is a dominant trait. So that is an example of a pedigree showing a dominant trait. That means that if you're going to get that trait, you got at least one capital letter, a dominant allele. Over on the right where you see the ears, total opposite. That is an example of a recessive trait because the only way you're going to get attached earlobes, which is if you are have two little f's. So if you're homozygous recessive. So all of the x's or the squares and circles that are shaded in are going to be for little f, and that's going to have attached earlobes. So attached earlobes is a recessive trait. The top pedigree, at the very top, look at that one pedigree in the upper left-hand corner and look at just the number of squares that are filled in versus the number of circles that are filled in. Do you guys see how there's like mostly men that are affected in that pedigree? That's kind of like an example of a sex-linked pedigree. It's sex-linked because you have far many more males that are affected than females. Right away, that tells you that's a sex-linked trait. The one on the right, even though it's not the most complete pedigree, I would call that a autosomal. So not sex-linked, in other words. I'd call it autosomal because you have, even though there's only 3 people affected, really, you can't tell from this pedigree that it's only males that are being affected. So I would call that autosomal. They should have filled a few more in to be better about it. But okay, so the word of the day was pedigree. Okay, so what I want you guys to do, if there's no questions on this, you guys are going to do a little activity.
Partners?
You guys are going to do this individually.
I already called it. But when I was working with it, shut the fuck up.
Do you want the
Are you gonna
camera
have
off?
a grade? Miss Roger, are you gonna take a grade on what we did yesterday?
You want the camera off?
Yeah.